For any EB-5 investor, there's this monthly government report that can feel like you're trying to crack secret code. Well, today, we're cracking that code. We are going to break down the March 2026 EB-5 Visa Bulletin to show you exactly how this one document really dictates your entire immigration journey. So let's just jump right in with a question. What do you think is the single most important document for your green card? Now, you're probably thinking it's your I-526 petition, or maybe all that source of funds documentation, right? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It's this monthly report that, let's be honest, can feel incredibly dense. So let's start with Section 1, your EB-5 green card map. You need to stop thinking of the Visa Bulletin as just a boring government report. It's not. It's your real-time map, your GPS to a green card. It tells you exactly where you are, how fast your lane is moving, and, most importantly, when you might finally get there. All right, Section 2, decoding the bulletin. Now, to read this map, you gotta speak the language, right? But don't worry, it's actually way simpler than it looks. So let's just quickly run through the key terms that are gonna guide you on this whole journey. First up, the big one, your priority date. This is your date. It is the exact day that USCIS officially received your petition, and it locks in your place in the queue. Everything else, and I mean everything, revolves around this one single date. Next up, we have the final action date. The easiest way to think about this, it's the finish line. If your priority date is earlier than the date you see listed here, then congratulations, you are considered current. And that means your green card can finally be issued. But hold on, there is another really important date you have to watch. It's called the dates for filing. Think of this as an early access lane. If your priority date is current on this chart, you get to submit all your final paperwork sooner. And this often comes with some huge interim benefits, like the ability to work and travel while you wait for that final decision. So here's the bottom line, the key takeaway. The dates for filing chart tells you when you can prepare. The final action dates chart tells you when you can finally arrive. Understanding the difference between these two is, well, it's absolutely critical. All right, Section 3, the new rules. Now we get to the part that really shook things up. The 2022 Reform Act completely redrew the map. It didn't just add a few new things. It basically created a fast pass system for immigration. And this forced investors into a critical choice between speed and project flexibility that just never existed before. And here's what that new breakdown looks like. The Act literally carved out these set-aside categories, dedicating a specific chunk of the visas to each one. 20% for rural projects, 10% for high unemployment areas, and a small 2% for infrastructure. This was a massive, massive shift. So what was the result of all this? A multi-speed highway. Those set-aside categories, especially the rural one, are just moving so much faster. And why? It's simple. Demand hasn't caught up to their dedicated visa supply yet. So for investors from backlogged countries like China, this all of a sudden created a brand new strategic path to get to the front of the line. So, Section 4. Why is it still so slow? This brings us to probably the most common frustration out there. Even with these new express lanes, why does the journey still take so long for so many people? The answer really boils down to a classic mismatch of supply and demand. First, let's talk about the supply. The U.S. government allocates roughly 10,000 EB-5 visas every year. That's it. That's the total for the entire world. It's a fixed number. Now compare that to the demand. At different times, there have been more than double that number of people waiting in line. I mean, more than 20,000 people waiting for one of those 10,000 spots. This gap is the fundamental reason we have backlogs. And this whole supply-demand problem, it creates a whole cascade of other delays. To make sure they don't run out of visas halfway through the year, the government sometimes has to slam on the brakes. And when they do that, the dates can actually move backward. It's a crazy phenomenon called retrogression. And here's the real kicker. Even if your priority date is current, none of it matters until your I-526 petition itself gets approved. And that process alone can take years. Moving on to Section 5, strategy. So what all this really means is that your choice of project category right at the very beginning, rural, high unemployment, or general, is now one of the highest stakes decisions you are going to make in this entire process. And why is that? Because you can't switch lanes later. It's that simple. Once your petition is filed and eventually approved, you're locked into that category. You can't just look over and see that the rural lane is moving faster and decide to jump over. So choosing the right path from the get-go is absolutely critical. Just think about two different investors. For a family with a child who's about to turn 21, speed is everything. They have to avoid that child aging out of the application. The rural category might be their only real option. But then you've got a single applicant with no rush at all. They have the flexibility to choose a project based purely on its financial merits, right? Your personal timeline completely dictates your strategy. So, our last section, what should you do right now? Let's turn all this analysis into action. Here is a clear, simple checklist to help you navigate your journey effectively, starting today. Okay, first, know your priority dates and check it against both charts. If you haven't invested yet, model the timelines for your country of birth across all the categories. If your date is getting close, start getting your final documents ready now. And crucially, if you have kids nearing 21, you need to be talking to an immigration attorney, like immediately. Following these steps turns you from just a passive waiter into a strategic navigator of your own future. At the end of the day, the Visa Bulletin is so much more than just data. In a process where timing is everything, it is the closest thing you have to a real-time map. It's the strategic tool that can save you years of waiting on your journey to a new life in the United States. So use it actively, review it with experts, and let it guide your decisions.